Happy Friday.
Welcome to Coffee with Kim and Jason, sponsored by Escape Adulthood and the letter L.
For
lessons.
Ooh, lessons. I see a lot of good drinks in the chat, especially hot chocolate in Colorado.
Yeah, we got a lot of water. I see. I asked what everyone was drinking as we got on here, and we're getting everyone saying what they're drinking and where they're from. And Lynn says she just finished a mug of chili, which is a very thick drink, if I do say so myself.
I love putting chili in mugs.
It's like,
the best. Oh. I don't think that's what she meant. But.
That's what it was in my head.
Well, the cartoonist head.
You don't want to go in there.
No. There's so many times where me and the kids will be like, that's like a comic strip. Like you just wrote your own comic strip out of that. So,
if anyone has ever seen the TV show Scrubs,
oh yes, we're watching that again.
JD, there's a lot of JD in me. There's a lot of
dreaming off to the side.
A lot of that. I have been known to miss exits on the highway.
Been known to
once or twice
per trip.
It's just
there's a lot of daydreaming that goes on in the creativity aspect of that head. So that's good. I think we all reap the benefits of that in some way. But I also have to put up with the missed exits and the turnaround. So you're welcome. I'll take one for the team.
Greatest strength, greatest weakness. That's all I can say.
So all right, what do you got for us today?
We got a little show and tell. And again, as usual, if anyone would like to play show and tell with us, they have something fun they'd like to show, we can call you up on screen. Oh, yeah. Just let us know in the chat. But we have something a little bit fun to share today as our show and tell. As you may remember yesterday, I was kind of mourning the idea that we have, the playgrounds are closed, the state parks are closed here in Wisconsin, which kind of stinks. And I just sort of, feel like I needed to get arrested for not just
I've never heard you
anything,
say that sentence.
But I haven't sort of like a COVID bucket list of I want to get arrested playing in a playground. Just, I don't know.
Just because.
It's probably not a wise move, but we did make an attempt yesterday. So I got to show this here. First of all, I got to get this one back up. Okay, here we go.
Okay, yes.
So here we go. Pull this up.
That's our park in our neighborhood.
Our park. You can see the line or the sign that says playground closed until further notice. And if you can see very distantly in the background, there's a shadowy figure on the playground equipment. I don't know who that would be.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's weird. It was ironic that here we're talking about trying to get arrested at a park, and we go for a walk, and all of a sudden we see someone.
Good thing we got a
there,
picture of it.
And so I'm like, I need to get a picture of this so we can report this to the authorities because this is inappropriate. And then the person actually slid down the slide.
Again, it's hard to tell who that is.
It looks like he's having a good time. Weirdly, his shoes are red. I don't know what that's about, but
maybe you'd get along with that person.
I feel like we'd be best friends. I don't know. So it's just weird. You put things out in the universe, and then just randomly you encounter things like this.
You should write a book on breaking rules that don't exist. But what about the rules that do exist?
Well, that's just it. The people always talk about, well, you're a rule breaker, and I'm really quick to say, I'm about breaking rules that don't exist.
Tara.
Well, it looks like we have a Sherlock Holmes in our midst. Tara Ingalls noting that the file name is Jason Slide JPEG.
Maybe it's another Jason in our neighborhood.
It was, it was because I took the picture of someone on the slide. Every picture we have, we label who took it. So that's easily explained.
Oh, nothing gets past Tara. Thanks a lot, Tara. And welcome back, Jim. I know Jim was on a retreat, a meditation retreat. So I hope it went really well. I'm glad you're back.
Good to have everybody here.
Ian's here, and Tracy, and Lynn, and Rachel, and Jenna. Pretty good group today. Yeah.
So here's the thing. I like I said, if anyone is interested in Steven says, bless your heart. If anyone is interested in jumping on for show and tell, that's open. We also have the poll open. We're curious. how many of these shows you've watched. We counted them up today. This is actually our 24th show, which is
in this run.
Yeah, in this run. We did 5 before that over the last 2 years. So this is really condensed.
It's a little denser lately.
So we're, curious of how you've enjoyed these and how many of them have you watched and are they useful? And if you have any feedback for us, you can send it to kj@escapeadulthood.com, and that email goes to both of us. So love to hear what you think of the show, what you've liked about it, what you didn't like about it, any of that.
It's a good piece of evidence when we heard that this was 24 episodes in of how weird time is. And raise your hand if this is happening to you, but like yesterday it seems like a week ago, but then 5 weeks seems like a year. And I don't know. I am having a really hard time with time.
Yeah. When I showed Kim those photos I took of that perpetrator in the park, she said, when was that taken? I said, yesterday. She goes, that was yesterday? I'm like, yeah, that was less than about 24 hours ago. So
it feels like
such a weird
Tuesday.
time.
I don't know. Yeah. So anyway.
So we want to share with you some of the lessons we've learned so far. It appears now that the country will be moving forward in different stages. So we here in Wisconsin got word that we're stuck here for longer. Hopefully things will clear up and we won't need to be locked down for that long, but other states are not as inundated with the coronavirus. So they're starting to open things up. I actually saw today, Jacksonville opened beaches today.
Oh my God.
Their beaches. So people are pretty excited about that.
That's awesome.
We're going forward into an interesting time now where I think no matter where you live, there's light at the end of the tunnel. Even in New York and New Jersey and some of the worst places, it seems like perhaps the worst is over. It's not over, but there's hope. And so it'll be interesting going forward to see how this all pans out. But we've certainly learned, at least the two of us have learned a lot of things in the last 5 weeks.
Yeah. Question mark. After we just talked about it.
Years.
Poor Ian. He's working in a U.S. time zone while being in Australia.
That's weird. That's got to mess you up.
I don't understand how that works. So yeah. Everybody's got such a unique situation right now. So I think that's part of it, right?
So I'd love in the comments, those of you who are here live, if you want to share a lesson you have learned, if we get a chance to read some of them, I'd love to share those. But let's start with a few of ours. One of them, I think that's been kind of universal for the both of us, is realizing the importance of our faith in a time like this. So we've always been, our entire relationship, we've been people of faith, and it's been an important part of our life. But I think especially for me, I've realized that all of the work that I've put in to the last 20 years of my life, building that relationship with God, seems to have paid off. I mean, I don't remember if I mentioned this in one of these shows or somewhere else, but I went on a retreat last November and I read through a lot of old journals all the way back from when I was in college. And I was flabbergasted and ashamed to see how many times I was writing in my journal, like in a panic and, oh my God, this is bad and it's terrible and I'll never get through this. And why have you forsaken me and all that? And it was sort of like embarrassing after a while because you're like, dude, get a grip. Like you've been through this before. It always comes out. And I've been happy to see that there have been small bits of progress that have helped me in this time. Again, I'm not perfect. There have been times where I have little moments of freak out, as I'm sure we all do, but I've come to see how important it is. And something else that I think we've done is to try to share it a little bit more. I've always been very mindful of doing that because I want to respect where people are coming from. And I've always subscribed to the idea that you should preach the gospel always and only if necessary use words. And sometimes I err on the side of not using words. So that's been something I think we've done a little bit more of. I don't know what you'd add to that, Kim.
Yeah, well, there was a video I watched the other morning in my prayer time, and it was talking about the difference between what if, all the uncertainty that is consuming our existence versus what is. And I think that's what times of uncertainty bring about is the grounding in our beliefs and our foundation and where our root system is. So I'm sure everyone's experiencing that on whatever spiritual, path you're on. For us has been very personal and very much something we talk about every day. So I think it's been something that has allowed us to be even more intentional with how we talk about things with the kids, how we're really processing what's next. And it's like, you can't have one part of the conversation without the other.
Right.
Of like, what's God doing here? Where are we going with this? Where is he leading us? What possibilities around the next corner? So there's a lot of hope.
I think that for me, it seems like I don't know how I would have gotten through this point so far without my faith. I need that every daily time to have that quiet time. And so it seems a little selfish of me to not share how helpful that is when I'm very easily share things that have helped us fighting adultitis and having more fun with our family and things. And as with anything, people can take it or leave it. Like you talk about sticky cup, putting a cup on your car and driving around town. Like people don't all do that.
And actually there are people who've told us they don't care for that.
Yeah.
And then, as with anything, it's for you or it's not for you. Right. So I see Marilyn Loveland says, faith has truly helped me to not be fearful through this pandemic. And I can relate to that. Fear, it's either hope or fear, right? And one consumes you or the other. And I don't, like you said the other day, I don't think they can coexist very easily.
I think that was a quote from Maya Angelou yesterday that we shared is you can only pick one and only one can fill the space at a time. I saw that Tracy said, I have learned to be more confident with technology, which is awesome. I think that's a lot of people have felt that way. Steven says, in some ways, I feel like the roles between my parents and me have switched. Guiding them to distance further is an interesting challenge. So that's really interesting. I think Tara says, I have a sticky note on my laptop that says I have 100% track record for making it through tough shit. Ooh. And that's a good reminder, right? Yep. So that has been a big one, the lesson of that. Another lesson is, I don't know if this was a lesson or an affirmation of the importance of art.
Yes.
I have a letter that's going to be in the Insider, not this weekend, but the weekend after. I've started a draft on it, talking about examining the word essential and non-essential, which has been something that we've heard a lot of in terms of businesses and things. And it strikes me that in most schools, art and music have been
and theater
any of the arts are usually deemed non-essential. They're some of the first things to get cut from the programs.
Art on a cart, baby.
And in a lot of ways, I think art is what is getting us through this. And it's ironic too, because a lot of times schools emphasize sports, and here we are in a situation where organized sports has not really played a role at all in any of this. I do think it'll play a role in healing after. I can't wait. This is my El Mago Javi Baez shirt. I cannot wait for baseball and things like that. But the art and all kinds, right? Music, the people who have made the entertainment and the movies that we've watched to keep ourselves, give us ourselves an escape. The artists who have created funny memes and drawings and paintings, and even just regular people that are drawing chalk drawings on the sidewalk and
hearts in the windows. I mean, that you think it's just a heart. No, people are making beautiful pieces of artwork and stained glass paintings. And I mean, people right here in this chat, I know I've seen pictures of. So it's pretty amazing how art, and I was thinking this when you were talking, is that art helps our mental health, where science and math tend to help our physical health. Right? Isn't that interesting? Like we need the science and math of school, of course, because goodness gracious, the heroes in the hospitals, right? But our mental health is largely increased by art.
Yes. Lynn says, a big chunk of my job is hospitality, and I am having to move from in-person to doing a lot of writing to help stay connected to people, help them feel connected to each other. I used to joke I was the chief morale officer in the parish, but it's for real now. Very good.
Wow, that's perfect for you, Lynn. That's awesome. Meant to be.
So I think the essential, I hope that's something that sticks with people, that they make that connection of how important art has been to our world in this time, and that we're not so quick to shove it under the rug when we get back to normal.
My favorite experience online of art was the Andre Bocelli concert on Easter. I don't know if anybody got a chance to see that in Italy.
Yeah, it was awesome.
That was phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just one of those things of like, every time you turn around the last 5 weeks, somebody was doing something really cool. We're big fans of Michael W. Smith, and I don't know how many in his home concerts we watched, including really special ones like on Good Friday and things like that.
Yeah.
So it's been really cool to see that.
Yeah, totally. Mm-hmm. Okay, here's another one. Parents are the first teachers. So this is interesting because pretty much every parent has been forced into the role of teacher. And we've said before that although people call it homeschooling, it's a lot harder than real homeschooling because it's not a situation that people would just be thrown into like this, and it doesn't look that way always for everyone else. However, it is true that parents really are their children's first teachers. And I've been sort of uplifted by seeing parents who have embraced this role and have tried to do their best to take on that role. And I've been a little bit sad from the ones who have resisted it and is like, that's not my job. Now, I'm not talking about like not appreciating the teachers. I think that's a different issue of like, teachers don't get nearly enough credit for what they do on a day-to-day basis, because it's not just dealing with one family's kids, it's 25 families' kids and all of the different things that go with it. But just the idea that, the first responsibility for any parents is their own children. And
that doesn't mean like following exactly what the school is saying either.
Right,
We're not talking about that. Like, I think Rachel has said it here in the chat, and I've heard you say it too, of like trusting that your kid better than anyone in the whole world.
Yeah.
And that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about curriculum. We're not talking about the to-dos of the online checklist. We're talking about knowing your child and what they need, because this has been a very social, emotionally stressful, anxiety-ridden time for children. And only you know what your child needs at this time. So,
and I hope that when things do go back to normal, when kids go back to school eventually, whenever that is, that the parents, that all of us parents will own that first teacher role, so that even amidst the regular curriculum in the regular school, that we will also be active in trying to pay attention to what our kids are interested in and nudge them and coach them along and work with the teachers together. And I think our communities and our culture will be better for it. So
I think there'll be a lot of more, I predict there will be more family advocacy of self-discovery for their kids, because they will have seen the importance of the child's interests these last few months. I mean, kids in Wisconsin got out of school in March and they're not going back till September now. That's 6 months of being at home, which is significant.
Yes,
I mean, that is mind-blowing, considering 2.5 months at summertime usually, kind of freaks everybody out. So the amount of self-discovery that these kids are going to have, I think the parents are going to see that, and there's going to be new ownership. There's going to be new advocacy. There's going to be new family bonds. That's what I hope anyway.
Yeah.
So
I see Tracy says, kudos to parents. As a teacher with no children, I don't know how I could be teaching my students and helping my own children. Wow. So I think parents appreciate teachers more. I think teachers understand how difficult it is. I'm sure part of them are like, see, it's not so easy, right? And deservedly so.
Right.
But hopefully, like I said, hopefully we will partner together going forward, and it'll be better in general for children and our society. So, so here's something. I'll let you talk about this one, about the loneliness epidemic.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is not, I don't think, going to be new to anyone in here, but let's flash back 6 months before, all of this, where this was not on anyone's radar. I mean, 6 probably is way too long even, but that's fine.
I don't know what day it is. So
I know.
Remember 7 minutes ago when this wasn't a thing?
And I think I was hearing in certain places about loneliness, and how loneliness in such a connected age of iPhones and FaceTime and all of it, loneliness was kind of coming up and bubbling up as like one of our biggest epidemics. There's a band that we follow for King and Country, and they had a very hit song in this, in the winter that address this. And in some videos we watched of them kind of talking about the song, they said, the percentages, and I can't remember any of them right now, but it's like, I don't know, 80% of all Americans said they're lonely or something crazy. And you're like, and these people aren't people that just live alone. So I think my thought is like the lesson with this is kind of like, I think we are maybe a little bit more equipped to battle this epidemic of loneliness because it's been brought to the forefront. I've heard a lot of people talk about connecting with their loved ones more by Skype or like video chat or calling them more often. I've actually heard someone tell me, yeah, I've been calling my mom every day and we just talk for a few minutes. We never used to do that before. And of course, there's people in nursing homes and retirement places that can't have visitors. So you see these amazing stories of people coming to their windows and kids making cards. And this is all the same problem, loneliness, So I think there's a lesson in that.
Yeah, it's ironic because we're supposedly more connected than ever, and yet we're lonelier than ever. And so, I hope that this helps us to shine a greater light on that, not only now when it's so obvious, but that it'll carry over with some of the tools for connecting with one another. I think even just the idea of taking more time to be present with people, because, when this whole lockdown quarantine thing hit, a lot of things on our schedules went out the window.
Right.
I was like, I don't have to drive my kids to soccer practice, and I don't have to go to that meeting, and I don't have to do this. And it helps me to think about, like, now when it comes back, how much of it is really all that important. And maybe some of that time should be focused on what are the relationships in my life that really matter, and how can I make time for that and put that in first before I jam everything else in.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Yeah.
Busyness, I think, will be a different conversation in a few months.
Yeah.
So
a fifth lesson that we have is the importance of controlling inputs. We talked about this the other day as a very, a time when we are so out of control and feeling very uncertain about things that we can't control. One of the things we can control is what inputs we have, where we're getting our information. And so that is huge in terms of what news are we watching? How much time are we spending going down the rabbit holes of apocalyptic scenarios that we can fall into? Who are we spending time with? Who are we having conversations with? That's an input. I was talking to actually Scott Ginsberg, who was one of our first guests on this show. I was talking to him yesterday, and he talked about the challenge of being on the phone with certain family members who just download all this negativity and fear, and then talking about, like, what am I supposed to do with that, right? What is he and his wife supposed to do to process that, and realizing that they don't have to carry that for that person. Like, they dumped it on them, but they can be like, that's how they feel. And I need to now go out and get some other inputs, other
to
things to replenish that.
Right.
And so that's the thing, is the people we're talking to, the conversations we're having is an input. I know for me, the last several weeks, I've made it a point over the weekend to be off of the news sites and Twitter and social media, and just be away from that. And it's been really good for me, because it's easy to get overwhelmed by that. And it's a lot of it is stuff I can't control. So by ignoring that input and focusing on other things that I can't control, mental health and the peace and the hope is a lot better. And of course, from what we said at the very beginning, the most important part of my day is the input at the beginning. We spend an hour with my Bible open, with the journal open, and just praying. That's the most important input that I have that's keeping me going through this. So
definitely. Well said.
Anything else you want to add to that?
I think this is one of those lessons that everybody knows, but it's harder to practice than it is to know it. So I just challenge people with that one, because I think I have this conversation with people I care about, like, oh, you should limit this and you should limit that. Oh, yeah, I know. And it doesn't happen. So I think it's just something to take more seriously than you think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Lynn says, I have had to snooze some of my Facebook friends. At first, I felt terrible doing it, but it affects me so much. And I think that that's totally fine, because I think, you know, writing in one little sentence or a couple paragraphs why someone is an idiot for believing in something or voting for someone or not voting for someone, no one's mind has been changed by reading a Facebook post or a tweet, and it only causes division. And there's a time in place for that. Like, one of the things Kim and I don't ever post about politics. I'm more than happy to have a conversation one-on-one with someone and have about differences and agreements and things like that. But social media is not a good place for that. So we've been really quick. I remember like on my Instagram, I've been pretty quick to like unfollow anyone that's kind of pushing an agenda.
And we don't make a big deal out of it.
No,
like, you know,
it's just me controlling an input, and I don't have to get back on there and be like, you shouldn't write this. And like, it's just another form of controlling inputs. Yeah. So
definitely. Do we have another one? I hear children coming down the stairs.
One more. All right, guys. Can you guys come down in like a few more minutes?
We got a little longer.
Yeah, we're going a little longer. But
2-3 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay.
We just got one more lesson to share. What is it? Oh, yeah. So this was a really big insight that Kim pointed me to, because she had discovered a podcast from Brene Brown, who we love. We got a chance to see her at World Domination Summit, which is hosted by Chris Guillebeau, who we had recently on the show.
By the way, if you have not explored Brene Brown yet, you're welcome.
I think everyone
has. But you know, some people are like, I should check out her stuff. Yeah, definitely.
She's got a really good knack of giving words to things and naming things. But ironically, this concept she was sharing from someone else, one of her mentors. So she didn't invent this, but she shared it. And the idea was that when we experience anxiety, and she said anxiety is one of the most contagious emotions, which was really interesting because you can feel that, right? When you're around people who are anxious, makes you anxious, right? On the flip side, she said calm is also a contagious emotion. So that gave me some hope. But she said, when you are anxious, you either slide into overfunctioning mode or underfunctioning mode. Overfunctioning mode is when you ramp up, you take control, you find yourself really busy and focused on solving the problems, and that may not be as healthy. On the flip side, also not always as healthy, is the underfunctioning. So if you feel anxiety, you may shrink. You may let other people take control. You might find yourself overcome with anxiety and grief and fear and paralyzation, that sort of thing. And it was interesting because when I heard that, it clicked for me on how I had gone into over functioning mode. Kim and I were in Indiana with the kids right before this came down. I had a speaking engagement at a children's museum, and the news was happening. And pretty much on our drive home, it was like, president announcing national emergency, all this stuff. And we pretty much went straight into helper mode. We went into like, okay, what can we do? Let's do this and let's do this and let's set this up.
We had a 7-hour drive to like figure that all out.
Yeah. And we went full board. And I realized like, as it was going on, I'm like, man, why am I so tired? And I didn't think I was stressed out. I didn't think I was anxious, but I was like tired. And this realization from Brene is like, no, I have been stressed. I have been anxious. I have been tired. It's because that this is how I'm dealing with anxiety right now, is trying to be active and helping and, like Chris Farley, like the crazy guy. Right. And I mean, you would say the same thing, right? Yeah.
It's kind of interesting because I wonder how it works for couples who have a split response. Because she talked in the podcast, this was just a recent podcast, so you can find it, that, you have guilt on the underfunctioning side, because you're like, oh, everybody's getting their houses clean and their yards cleaned up or whatever, however you see.
I'm eating my 10th bag of Doritos and
there's a lot of guilt on that side. So I find it interesting that for some reason we both went into the the overfunctioning together. Which who knows, everybody's going to be different with their individual paths, but we definitely both did that.
Yeah. And obviously I think both modes are understandable. I don't think we need to beat ourselves up over either one. Right. I think it's just a matter. I think that, again, the thing with Brene that's great is just about awareness and mindfulness and labeling things and knowing ourselves better. So that being said, one of the things that we have talked about is this overfunctioning thing is we need to give ourselves a little bit of a break. So for the next week, we're taking off, laying low, spending more time with the family. We're going to suspend the daily show. The show is not over. It will come back in some form. I'm not sure how yet. And I'm actually kind of excited because that's one of the cool things that has come out of this is the things we've learned and the potential that we see. So we really love doing this. And that's why we want to know from you, have you liked it? But more importantly, what have you liked about it? And what would you like to see come from it more? But I'm actually really excited about this because I've kind of like cleaned out my to-do list of all the business stuff. It's down to the bare minimum. Like I said, next week we won't be doing any shows, and it's just going to be a time to rest. I think at 3:00, I'm going to take a nap every day and not drink coffee. It's going to be a chance to see if we can get that
caffeine
have a little bit
out
more,
of our system.
a little bit more fun with the kids, be a little bit more present to them than maybe we have, and to read and to think and see what's next. Because I think we're in a transition point. Like I said earlier, we have some momentum here into something positive, and it'll be different for different parts of the country. So
yeah,
I want to think about what's next, and I want to give myself permission. Ironically, as we toyed around with the idea of like going and having a break, I was like, oh, good. Now I can clean the garage and I can undo the closet. And I'm like, wait, that's still over functioning.
Work in the yard, get everything rigged up
in a different way. So we're going
to be careful.
Try really hard to not do that. So
spring break. Yes, Rachel. And I see Jim is like one step ahead of us. Okay. With 24 episodes in the can, the last 5 weeks, there's like so many reruns, right? So if you want to, queue up the computer or phone at 3:00 every day and watch some of the back episodes you missed. We had so many good interviews. We also have 5 episodes from the last year and a half that are just sitting there. And where can they find all that?
Well, if they go to escapeadulthood.com/coffee, which actually, if you're here live right now and you see where it says sign up for updates, you can click that button and that'll take you to the show page. And it has the playlist with all 28 videos, 29 after today, including the 24 that we've had during this crisis. You can watch them, rewatch them. You can sign up for updates so that you'll know when we come back and what form it takes, because it may or may not be on Crowdcast. I'm not sure.
Yeah, we're kind of playing.
So if you're only finding out about this because you follow us on Crowdcast, sign up for our insider list. Again, I really am not holding anything back in terms of what we're thinking about. We have a lot of cool ideas, but it's all very nebulous right now. And I think that's why we need a week
some
to just
space
kind of chill
to
and space. And again, I'd love to have feedback.
And Father Dave's encouraging us to take a retreat, low and slow, he says. So thank you. I know you appreciate those retreats as much as we do. So we will definitely take that perspective.
Jill says, we'll miss you, but totally understand. Enjoy your time, guys.
Cool.
Yeah. I think that's one of the biggest things that makes us feel bad is like, oh man, there's like people that have really said they love these 3:00 shows and the daily routine. And we're like, are we letting people down? And Kim was quick to be like, they can set their timer for 3:00 and watch the old show. I mean, like, look at the polls and like, not everyone here has watched all 24. So you can watch some of the reruns.
And I have no idea what those shows from the year and a half were. I mean, so it's kind of fun. I think they were longer. I think they were almost an hour.
Champagne with Kim Jason. That was one
for the book launch.
Chance of Awesome book launch.
So that we were tinkering back then, and like we said, our learning curve really increased. So the kids have been so patient.
Yes, thank
you. They're
guys.
like
Come on
hanging out right here. Come on, guys. We're really blabbing on today, weren't we?
Blah 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 blah. All right. What we got? Ben, I think you've worn that shirt for about 8 days in a row. Check the check the episodes, the
there's
reruns.
no judgment here.
No, I'm wearing the same pants I've worn for the last 4 days, so I'm no judgment at all.
Steven says, "Yay, super kids!" What do you have, Ro? What is this?
It's a horse. It's one of my Lego friends.
Yes, they got a whole big Lego world upstairs, don't you?
Hold it like this.
I know. I can't. Oh, it has to grab it. Okay.
Camera will grab it. There you go.
Ian's just happy you're wearing pants. And yes, Rachel, that's a tip to less laundry. Is just wear it longer.
That's right.
What are you guys up to today, or want to talk about? I should say.
No. Did you have something to share?
Oh yeah.
Oh, who's this dude?
A Lego
Just
guy.
a Lego guy.
Nice.
What's his story?
I don't know.
Is he supposed to be someone, or is he just a made-up guy?
He's just a made-up
All
guy.
right. Well,
Nice.
pretty good. Our entire living room right now is Lego Town. So it's been since we watched Lego Masters finale the other day. They've been.
Is that on
heavy
Hulu or
into-
Netflix?
It's on Hulu for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
That if you missed that and you like Legos, you definitely have to check it out. What is it called again?
Lego Masters
Lego
with
Masters.
Will Arnett, the
Mhm.
voice of Batman in the Lego movies. So that was and Job. We brought up Job the other day too.
Oh yeah.
For illusions, Michael. So yes. All right, dudes. Thanks for
Anything
coming
else
down.
you wanna say, Liz? No? Okay. All
All
right.
right.
Thanks for saying hi.
Bye.
Bye.
Everyone says they'll miss you guys too. So we will be back. This is a goodbye for now.
And Jason got his painting back from the scanner. They did a whole social distancing kind of thing to get this scanned.
Yeah, that was
which
kind of
is
fun.
cool.
I had to call our scanner people and say, "Hey, I want to drop this off. Can you do anything with it?" They said, "Yeah, just give us a call and text us." And so this is back. We sold this original painting. This is the one that I did a time lapse video for. We sold this to a collector. However, I recently, now that I've gotten it back from the photographer, the scanner, we were able to make prints, canvases available. So we've had the 11 by 14 prints are still available. And we also have a 20 by 20 and a 30 by 30 size. So this is actually 20 by 20. The 30 by 30 is even bigger. I know some of the places are having delays in production, but
Less than staff
I think
and
it's
stuff,
I think it's you can still order it and it'll get on its way.
Ian wanted to know, does the place have a giant scanner or how does this work?
This, you know what, they do have a big scanner, but I think for my bigger paintings they actually use a camera, and I have done that with some of my paintings, but I trust them to do it much better. They get
it's
it.
crazy what they can do.
It's like trust the experts, right? So
yeah. Most of the time when we've gotten really big things like reproduced and then we see what they did, you can't even hardly tell the difference.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
They do a really good job. So it's worth the investment for me to have that. So so this has been a thing. I've really been delighted with how much this image has touched people, and I've gotten really some cool feedback and shares on Facebook and all that. So this is one of the good things that has come out of this.
I think one of the things that all of us enjoy about your artwork, Jay, is the nostalgic piece that tends to come out. And that's what we've talked about. There's something about nostalgia right now that is very comforting to all of us inner children, whether it's an old band that you used to listen to, or, whether it's music or visual arts. And for me, the feelings of grabbing a mason jar and going and getting fireflies or lightning bugs or whatever you call them, it's a big deal. Like, that brings back something very special that provides comfort. So I think that's why it's landing. If I had to give my professional opinion.
Well, maybe so. Either way, it's fun to be able to share that talent with people, and I have
even
many
your
more
bird
paintings.
nest one, the bird nest one. I think there's something very childlike about peeking in a bird nest and seeing eggs. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's a Midwest, robin egg, bright blue robin egg kind of perspective. But that to me is very nostalgic too, of like, a nest, like the childlike joy of seeing a nest with eggs,
Yeah.
So I've never seen a lily, Easter lily with all the rainbow stuff, but that's the fantastical shenanigans.
That's the whimsy piece.
Yeah.
So. All right. Well, again, thank you guys for being here with us.
Yes.
Thank you to everyone. I know not everyone could be here at this time, so if you're watching this after the fact, we appreciate you as well. If you have any feedback on the show, things we should keep in mind going forward, send it to KJ, as in Kim and Jason, KJ at escapeadulthood.com. Love to hear it. And until next time,
yes,
have fun, be whimsical, shine on.
Shine on.
Dream
We'll see you
big, shine
soon.
on.